Well, Carla, thank you very much.
Thank
We're
you.
so happy to have you here.
And I'm happy to come back. Yes.
Well, I guess that's a great place to start. You're coming back to the festival. I mentioned this a moment ago. This is 10 years of Kering Women in Motion, but back in 2018, you were the Emerging Talent Award winner. So what is it like to now be back with your third film in competition here at the festival?
It's very special. I don't know, like when I think about, you know, like when I go look back, it's like how many things happen in like just few years, no? And yeah, no, I feel that I grew up somehow, no? And it's an honor to be back with the film here. I mean, it's a big thing, no? And to share the official competition with directors and artists that I love so much and that have been referenced, you know, it's like it's a big thing. It feels big.
Tell me about the premiere, because I was there for the standing ovation. You know, what was it like to be in the Grand Theatre Lumière and watch your film unfold?
I don't know, it's so special because it has this sense of ritual, you know, and celebration and ceremony somehow. It's true that I had been there many times just like watching other people's films, and you get emotional and all this, but like when it's yours and you walk up this red carpet and these stairs, you know, that you've seen from outside many times, suddenly it's, yeah, it's very emotional. And we were saying now that when you premiere your film for the first time, you don't know what you've done, you know? So it's like you don't know the response of the people, you feel very fragile as well. And then, you know, the fact that people clap so much, and I felt their warmth, you know, it was like, I don't know, I felt like released somehow, you know, like people got the story, they also kind of got emotional with it, and I think that I told what I wanted to tell, you know. And also there was this part that we had a lot of crew coming as well, the actors as well, you know, so it felt nice also that it was the first time for them that saw it in this special theater that actually it looks and sounds amazing, you know.
It does, and the audience was so engaged. Like you said, people were laughing, people were crying. Especially when it's a story that is so personal.
Yeah.
And, you know, I imagine that makes it feel even more special. Because, yeah, what is that like? You've explored your family now across these 3 films.
Yes.
But this one seems especially, like, close to your personal story.
Yeah.
So what was it like to see that version of you in some ways on that screen?
I don't know, it's strange because, you know, now it's my 3rd film, I've been exploring my family stories, and I know how it feels to kind of, you know, like turn your own story into a fiction. And sometimes you really have to kind of detach, you know, and in order to be able for it to work as a story for the other people, no? And in that case, I was exploring the part of the family that I know less, which is my biological dad's family. So there is a lot of fiction. Yeah. But it's true that, you know, in a place like the premiere, you feel very connected, no? In my case, like with my roots. And I felt like, I don't know, it's a story that it was born out of my frustration of not knowing much about my parents who died when I was a kid. And because they died of AIDS and there's this big taboo, you know, my family never told me clear things, no? And I had to kind of almost invent a story for them, no? And the film is about that, about the power of cinema to kind of create the images that you don't have, no? So somehow, yes, the fact that, you know, that you are there with something so personal and people can connect anyways, it's very special, yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you decided to make this particular film, because, like you said, you're kind of inventing a story about your parents' story, but you're also telling a story about how you fell in love with filmmaking too.
Yes.
So, tell us a bit about how you got inspired.
I think, you know, actually I started writing this film during pandemia because we had to postpone Alcaraz, my 2nd film. And you know, we were at home, so connected to my feelings, it was easy to start. But then we did Alcaraz, I had a child, and I thought, do I really want to go back to my memories again now that I have a child, you know? But then I thought, this is not only my story. And I realized that it was interesting to recover the memory of my parents, not just them, like them as a whole generation. No? So what happened in Spain is that, you know, we had this long dictatorship. Then Franco died. We had the transition. It was a super happy period of like freedom, finally, no? And the country was changing so fast. But there was a dark side because lots of drugs came in. People say that the government didn't do much to stop because while young people were into drugs, they were not into politics. So there was a big crisis of heroin. They didn't know the consequences of it, and then suddenly AIDS came. And Spain is like, has the highest rate of AIDS in Europe, no? So it really hit us bad. And in Galicia, because of the landscape and the coast, the drugs came through that. That Galicia is where my father was from. And so basically, some people, you know, take a picture or like a photo of this period and it's like, this was that, you know, so you see that it was a big thing. And because of the taboo of AIDS and heroin, the families don't want to talk about it, no? And I think that's why, for me, it was really difficult to kind of understand my parents' love story, and nobody really can tell me so much about it. So then I realized that it's more like a story of a whole generation, and it's kind of like, you know, recovering and talking about that. It's also historical memory somehow. And that's why I said, okay, so then I really have to make this film. And you know, and I think that I'm very curious as well how people will like receive it in Spain, no? Because I think it talks about like many families and about something that it's hard for them to kind of face, no?
Well, that's what art can do, because it can spark these conversations and make people have those sometimes, you know, tough talks with one another about things that they weren't necessarily ready for. But when you see it on the screen, and there's so many beautiful sequences, including that scene that you have at the club towards the end, that really speaks to that this is your personal story, but really about so many more people.
Yes.
Too. I will ask you about your flamenco musical later, because we have to get to that.
Okay.
But I wanted to also ask about the location where you shot the film, because I understand that some of it was actually where your parents' love story took place. What was it like to film there?
It was very special. You know, for me, Galicia is kind of like a magical or a spiritual place, no? Because I know that my parents had their love story there, and actually my father was from there. My father's family is still living there, no? So it was special also because I was coming from like shooting 2 films in the like rural countryside, inland, no? And suddenly shooting in the sea. That also has this connotation of like freedom, no? And my father used to sail, no? So I have many pictures of them sailing. So it was very nice to go back there. And at the end, you know, like places stay, people pass, and if you want to connect with someone that is not here anymore, I think that places are a good way, you know? Even if it's frustrating as well, because you go back and you say, I don't know if they were here or there, but anyway, this was the landscape of their story, and my mom wrote all these letters to her friends from Vigo, and these letters that I turned into a diary for the film, for me were so important. The way she describes the landscape, and the way she describes also their way of living, no? Like that has to do with the freedom of the 80s and like going day by day, not thinking much about the future and experimenting, and you know. So I learned so much through these letters that she wrote from there as well, no?
In thinking about that, I want to talk about how you found your cast as well, because there was a very particular challenge that they had to do in this film, this idea of playing 2 roles, for Lucia in particular. 3,000 girls you looked through to find her. How did you know that she was the one?
I don't know. I think it's like casting is about falling in love, no? And then suddenly you find someone and you are like, I feel like a huge desire to film this person, no? And then there's something about intuition as well, like we found her on the street. So she was like getting off a bus, coming from a Boy Scouts meeting with her backpack, and and we were like, "Can you come to the casting?" And she agreed. She had never acted. She's actually studying philosophy.
Amazing.
So yeah, nothing to do, or yes, depends how you look at it. So basically, when I saw her, I felt, because I was kind of looking for someone who I could feel close to when I was a teenager, no? And I could feel that she had this innocence but maturity at the same time. She was very free, no? On the way of she moved, and she obviously had a great intuition for acting, no? So we did a lot of castings with her, but at the end of the process, we were about it took us 8-9 months to find her, and we found her at the very end, and suddenly she was at my place rehearsing, no? So it was super fast. But I'm very happy about the evolution she made, and we had to work a lot, rehearse a lot and spend a lot of time together to kind of build this. But it was interesting.
Yes, and it's fantastic on the screen because you see just the resilience and the spirit, and to know that was reminiscent of the spirit that you had when you were a teenager. What was it that made you want to become a filmmaker, since that's what we see in the film?
I think my family. My family, because it's a big family and it's full of stories. And I always thought that probably because I had this curiosity towards my family, I made this trip, and some people are not so interested in their roots, and it's okay, but I always felt that I needed to understand. And I think that this also is because I already had in mind that filmmaking is something that I wanted to do, and I'm curious about relationships, no? So for me it was a challenge, the fact that this character starts a journey out of her curiosity, because this is not super it's not conventional narrative, let's say, no? Because usually you have a character that has a conflict, and we talked a lot with my producer. Should she be angry at this family who didn't contact her? Yeah. But she's not seeking for love. She's seeking for understanding her past, which is different, no? And I thought, why not to have someone whose drive is curiosity? And I think that this has to do a lot of with filmmaking, no? If we are not curious about people, there are no stories.
Well, you continue to display this curiosity, and specifically, like you mentioned, about family relationships, which are just kind of one of those things that, because we all have them, we know that there's lots of rich stories to mine from it. What have you learned about filmmaking from exploring this now these 3 times? How have you evolved in your artistry?
As a filmmaker, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it allowed me to explore something that that for me it's very what I seek, it's to try to find a way that the film is alive, and families give you that, because when there are a lot of people, things happen, So I like when you feel that you're watching bits of life, and it looks like everything is happening in front of the camera by chance, no?
Yeah.
And it's never chance, because it's film, so you prepare everything and you write and blah blah. But through these 3 films, I felt that I could explore this deeply because of the fact that I portray family, and and many people together provoke that, no? So on one side there is the part of working with the actors and rehearsing, which is for me my favorite part. Sure. That where we usually in the 3 films we did the same, that we spent a lot of time together, and we improvised moments that could have happened before the story of the film. So I kind of write or think about a prequel somehow. No, I take some notes of moments that could have happened before, and we improvise them so they go through it and they kind of feel the emotions of these moments. So we keep creating the relationships and the dynamics of the family, and somehow they have a shared memory, all of them, no? And then for me, this is the way that we get into set, and I can let them free. Yeah. We follow the script, but there is a little bit of room for improvisation, and things happen, no? Like things that I was not expecting. And for me, this is very important, that when we put the camera, things can still be a surprise. You just don't go and shoot what you had in mind, which as well you try to do, because I super control freak person, no? But at the same time, it can still be alive, no? And for me, to find this tone was a big exploration through the films in different ways, because Romería has a different like visual approach than the other films. This family is another kind of family. The protagonist is an outsider, so I couldn't approach the family in the same way camera-wise. But still, this spirit for me was something very important, no?
What inspired you to take a different visual approach this time, and how did you again have the increased confidence to change it up?
Well, Hélène Louba, who is the DOP, helped a lot, because she's great and it's the first time I work with her. But we both said we cannot portray the family in the same way as in the other films, because we need some distance between the main character and this family. So we didn't use handheld, which was, at the beginning I was like, how are we going to do that? Because of the way I work with actors, handheld is very useful. But we found ways to kind of have a fluid camera, but at the same time, this kind of distance, no? And then we had two other ways of filming. One was the video camera, no? That it was like, okay, how can we become again 18 and try to shoot in this way, which was very interesting. And then the part that she imagines, that for me was very joyful to shoot, because, you know, it was more free, basically, more sensual, more connected to the characters and the spaces. We could be close to them, no? So I think that this part is probably the part that I enjoy the most, no?
I was wondering, was that you when you were 18, always with a video camera in your hand?
Yes, because I got, I mean, for my 18th birthday, I got a camera like the one she has, and I started shooting my family. So when I see the footage, I have my family saying, again.
They're like, again with the camera.
Yeah.
Well, see where it got me?
Yes. No, but I loved shooting my family, and I still, actually, with Hélène, we review this footage, no, to see a little bit how I filmed. And I love the footage of video cameras in general, like even if it's not my family, because it has some intimacy, no, and the people who is shooting have relationship with the people that are shot, no? And you create some kind of intimacy and love that you can see through these images, that I never get bored of watching family footage.
I was thinking also, while I was in the ovation, I was thinking how beautiful it is that you have your new little one there with you as you are bringing this movie that's exploring your family. You know, what is that like as well?
Look, when you know, like when we got the good news that we got into Cannes, I thought, maybe I won't be able to go, because I'm 8 months pregnant. So who knows? and I was like, maybe it's too much. But then I was like, okay, wait, because I think I have to embrace this. I think it means something. I think that it's kind of closing a cycle of, you know, like these films about my family. After my second film, I had my first kid. Now it's a second. I'm not planning to have more. It's not like Film Kid, because it would never end. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think that it's somehow meaningful that I'm giving birth to two different things at the same time that have to do with family. I think that also this film somehow, you know, like I made Romería because I don't have this family memory or history, and I think that it's also a way to make sure that my kids won't lack this, no, and they will have this family memory through my films as well, which are not true or real, they are fiction, but it's something that they will feel that through what they can learn about their family as well, no?
Yeah, it's very similar to the letters. I mean, that is the real of what your mother was experiencing, but it's a version of the story that they can know that, you know, this is my lineage, this is my legacy.
Yes,
and it's a beautiful thing for you to be adding to. I mean, just even, again, being in competition here at Cannes, one of 7 women directors to have a film in competition, a third of the selection. You know, what does it mean as we think about the future and the more opportunity to tell stories like this with women behind the camera?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, no? Like, I feel that we're in a advancing little by little, not so fast, but at least like things are changing. And I think that we live in a moment that there's like a historical reparation of themes, no, that had always been told by men, and suddenly we take our perspective. And this is so important because, you know, like we're at the half of the world, we should tell the half of the stories in order to have a diverse look at the world, no? So I think that this is starting to happen. And I think that it was so needed because the stories really also mark the society, you know, and the stories we have, it's then what makes us evolve. They are so important. So I think that little by little we are getting there. It's fragile. I think that we cannot stop talking about it and making sure that we don't go back. But I think really that there is no way back after that.
Well, because a big part of it is you can't have a film in competition if you don't have the opportunity to submit the film, and even beyond that, if you didn't have the opportunity to make the film. And that kind of comes all the way back to the Women in Motion, the Emerging Talent Award, that being part of the funding to get Alcaraz made.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about just having that opportunity, the idea of, you know, another woman director selecting you to then continue this career on, and then also having that responsibility to then select the next person. It's daunting.
It's a big responsibility. It's as big as that I couldn't sleep the day I had to take it, the choice, you know, because it was so hard. The films were so good, and I had never been jury alone. Yeah. So I was like, it's a big responsibility basically. So I took it seriously, and yeah, but it's very beautiful, no? Like how we passed like each other years prize, no? And also how we got to meet each other the other day, and some of them I knew them from before, you know. So it's a beautiful community somehow, and for sure it's like something that puts you on a spot at some point. That helps you to make your next film, no, and gives you power in that sense that it's something that you bring to the film, no, and and then also there is something about budgets. Like when you start with low budgets, little by little, you know, like prices and things like that help you or open the door for you to kind of make bigger films, and also to make them in a better way, no. So like for example, I take time, a lot of time. And this is money, no? And also, when you have more money, you can like be close to your vision, no? Because when you don't have money, you have to give up many ideas that you are not able to put in. So in that sense, yeah, I feel very fortunate that in each film I could be closer to what I wanted to tell, no?
I actually, when you mentioned you all getting to meet at the gala dinner the other night, you took this amazing picture, everyone all together, but it also feels like that's a family too.
Yeah.
It's just a family of filmmakers.
Yes, totally. I think there is something between us that it's very healthy somehow, of the idea that we know that it was hard to get here. So we kind of like celebrate each other's success. And at least in Barcelona, I feel I'm very lucky because we have a very nice community of filmmakers. I mean, we are many female filmmakers, and we help each other. Like we read each other's script, we give feedback to each other. When we're in the editing, we see each other's cuts, no? And it's a way to kind of to not feel lonely, no? And to talk about where we are and to make sure that, you know, maybe because we don't have, I mean, there are some like people like Agnes Varda, or you know, like who open all the doors and you know, and open the road for us. but then we don't have many reference, no, because it's such a new thing that women are telling stories, no. So I think that it's good to be a family and to kind of share our experiences, no.
I mean, when you think about women like Agnes Varda and the fact that, obviously we have the theater here named for her, how has, the trail that she blazed inspired you, and what is it like to now be inspiring other young filmmakers to be like you?
I mean, for me, she's always almost like a god. No, because I don't know, she was such a free artist, and there was recently an exhibition in Barcelona about her, and I went out so inspired because, she was really doing what she wanted. And I'm also very inspired by her because she was always talking about things that are close to her, making films with her own family, that I do as well. I work with my siblings, and so there is something, that when you see people like her in a world like few years ago that had to be even harder, no? And she had kids as well, So I think that, it's okay, you can do it, and you can do this, and these films that she made, then, I've reviewed them more many times, and they are always very inspiring, no? So yeah. And I think that the fact that we inspire all other women, it's also very nice, and I think that, I don't know, I think it's normal that this happens, no? And I feel that now when I teach, women don't ask themselves if they can make films, There is something that I want to make films.
Yeah, we know.
And that's, we know, yeah. So I see that there is a big change in that sense, that for us was more like, can I make films? I know 5 women who made films, so, or I had to look for Spanish women filmmakers, on Google, because I didn't know many, no? And now it's different, things change, so I think that this is the way.
It's all moving, like we said, slower than we would like, but it's changing.
Yes.
You mentioned working with your family. Even your uncle.
Yes.
Your uncle was in this film this time.
Yes.
He's a notary.
Yes, he's the notary, and I mean, he helped me so much. He's the brother of my dad who died, and he encouraged me to make the film. So, we were talking with my partner one day about this role, and he said, it was my partner's idea. And he said, call your uncle, and I said, that's perfect. Yeah, and he agreed, and I think because he has something on his face that I think he's so good. It was a way to involve him as well, and he came to see the film the other day. He was so nervous, because obviously it's about his family as well, but he was fine.
I'm sure he loved it as much as we all did.
I hope.
And I hope he was not too critical of his performance.
No,
Good.
he was okay.
Good. Once you see it on the big screen, you're like, oh, I hope that it was good.
Yes.
Okay, I said I was going to ask about the flamenco musical because
Yeah.
we're looking ahead.
Yes.
What has inspired you to go there for one of your next projects?
Yeah, I'm starting to investigate about this,
Sure.
but I'm very curious about flamenco. Flamenco has evolved so much, in terms of music, during all this year. But in Spain, there was a time that there was a lot of flamenco musicals as almost like a genre,
Sure.
it was quite related, it was even in the dictatorship. But then there are some good flamenco musicals, and it didn't evolve much, no? So we stopped because it has this relationship with the dictatorship and all this. And then there are some filmmakers like Carlos Saura who explore it, who kind of made some exploration about flamenco and cinema, and I thought that maybe it was good to go back there and see what happens, no? So basically, we're kind of starting this project, and I feel that it's something that I really want to learn, no? Because at the end, cinema is also about that. I've been talking about my family, and now there are so many worlds that I want to explore, so it's the perfect excuse.
What else would you like to do? You know, as you think about the career moving, I guess, so 2018 to 2025, we're 7 years since your Emerging Talent Award. So in the next 7 years, when we come back to Cannes, what do you think you'll be doing?
I mean, I hope tell stories, but there's like a book I would like to adapt, you know, like there are things there, that ideas that I have. Sometimes I feel that, you know, sometimes we think that each film that we make has to be bigger than the previous one, and I don't think this way. Like, sometimes I feel there's something I would love to do, which is like make a film with my video camera.
Sure.
I love video camera. So, like, try to do something like that. I don't know. I have many ideas, so it's like little by little. They never end, the ideas. The ideas are easy. You know.
The ideas are easy. It's getting them to the big screen that's the hardest
Exactly.
part. I will ask you this as a last question. What is the question that you get most often from filmmakers? What is something that you want them to take away or to learn about the process? You know, you've had so much success. So I think people would be curious to know a little nugget of wisdom or advice.
Advice, okay. I'm so bad at that. Yes. No, but I think that, well, when I talk to young people, for me it's like the most important thing is to kind of find what you are sensitive to. Yeah. No, so it's like because this is a guide to understand what stories you want to tell. No, so for me it was very important to watch films and discover which films really hit me and really stayed in my mind, and why. You know, because sometimes it's not because of the story they tell. Most of the times it's the way they are told. No, and that's why. Yes, so this kind of helped me to understand the kind of cinema I wanted to make, and yeah, and the stories I wanted to tell. So I think that this is like, for me, the starting point.
Well, we are just enjoying watching the ride. Congratulations, Carla. We are so happy to have you, and we can't wait to see how the competition shakes out. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you.